Hello and welcome to another episode of Clean Talk. Today is February 22nd, 2023. Very excited to announce a new format for the Clean Talk Infection Prevention podcast. We're kicking that off today. In 2022, we did live shows every week. And while we had a lot of fun doing that, we did have some challenges around guest scheduling and some logistics issues. So now in 2023, with the focus of getting the very best guests and the very best infection prevention content on Clean Talk, we're going to a pre-recorded model so that our audience can consume the Clean Talk content in whatever way you see fit, 24 hours a day, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, what have you. So we're very excited to kick that off today. And again, the goal being to get the very best guests and best content. And our guest today is no exception to that rule. Tomas Heidegger is our guest today. His main field of research is on medical technologies, control teleoperations of surgical robots, image-guided therapy, and assistive devices. Tomas Heidegger is the co-founder of Hand and Scan Hand Technology. We're very excited to have Tomas on the show today. Tomas, welcome to Clean Talk.
Thank you very much. Hello to everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show. And we love talking about hand hygiene, obviously near and dear to all infection preventionists' hearts. And you have an exciting product. I can't wait to dive into the technology. But first, Tomas, what can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're on Clean Talk today?
So while I was trained as an engineer, electrical engineer and biomedical, and I've spent most of my research years in medical robotics domain, I realized a good 10 years ago that there is a lot about hand hygiene that I got excited. So, just washing hands seemed to be so easy. But then I realized, and actually I was presented many times that we failed to do that over and over again. And while I said to myself, this is okay to fail, and at home, and I can now teach my children to get a better job in cleaning their hands. If you think of the hospital environment, there's no room for errors there. And this really was intriguing. And as an engineer, we said, we should have a digital solution for that. So with the co-founders, Akos, Peter, Melinda, Laszlo, we started to work on a digital system that would enable us to visualize our errors. Because I think that's the number one learning factor. If you see where you missed, you could correct. And that seemed to be very easy at the beginning. So computers can do, we have cameras, we can program, we can do image processing. And it was quite easy to put together a prototype, so to say, early on. And then when we presented to the medical folks, they said, wow, we needed this. So that's how it started. And then, for the past 10 years, I dedicated most of my time, on one hand, really making the progress with that technology, because things have changed quite a bit over the years. But on the other hand, it's also important to educate people. And I believe that we all need to have a good understanding how important hand hygiene is. And this goes way beyond the clinical stuff, the hospital walls, the institutions. Here at the university, I want to show that lesson to everyone. At the kindergarten of my kids, I want to teach it to everyone. And of course, I want to make sure that we can avoid future pandemics and everything through better hand hygiene.
Well, I can't wait to dive into the technology. Obviously, as I mentioned, hand hygiene is first and foremost on most infection preventionists' mind. We recognize it as the low-hanging fruit for infection prevention. And there are a lot of solutions out there, whether you're talking about the birthday song or a correlation between device disinfection, monitoring of individuals' locations, and the correlation with their hand hygiene practices and workflows. And yet it seems like this is so important and there's so many solutions out there, and yet we don't see standards. So I want to dive into the technology of your device, but maybe first you can comment on that. Why do you think it is that if hand hygiene is the low-hanging fruit and it's the most important initial step in infection prevention, why aren't we seeing more standards amongst the various technologies that are viable?
Okay, so there are two distinct categories, so to say. There's the technology itself, and there's the human factors. So let's start with technology. We are now capable of recording a lot of things. We're able to collect the data, as you mentioned. And there are two distinct categories of systems and solutions that are out there. One is focusing on, they sometimes call it the compliance, but it really is the frequency of hand hygiene. So we try to do asset tracking, where I could refer to medical staff as an our key asset or the patient. And then when they are moving in and out, moving close to each other, performing any kind of critical motion, we want to make sure that we record whether they perform the correct action in terms of performing hand hygiene. And this is typically a binary recognition. So patient in and out, we all know there is a buzz, there's a reminder. There's something that allows us to focus on that. Yes, I turn to the sink or I take the alcohol-based hand rub. I just use the rub in or gel up, and then I'm clean. But there's a big factor which we have not considered important before, because this is, stage number one. Get a solution itself, and now I mean the ABHR, so the alcohol-based hand rub. So without spreading those and then making all institutions getting access to it, especially in the low-risk countries, that is a big challenge. Number two, make sure people get the basic training and they understand the importance of it and start using it. But then is number three, which means the quality of application. And this is where we are now. So we have good quality products on the market. We have even excellent systems, although sometimes they're over-engineered. But we do have the systems monitoring your motion and reminding you to perform it. But then how do we measure the outcome, the quality? And if you think about that, this is the most important. So even if I use the right product, if I use it at the right time, if I miss half of my palm, that's not going to save anything for the patient and for myself. And this was really the missing link, the black spot that we started to focus on. How to make sure that each and every time people have 100% complete hand hygiene. And this is all about our technology and the solution. But still on the top comes the human factor. So when we have all the technology completed, we still have to win the hearts and the minds and make sure that people not only understand the importance of it, they feel it, and they are committed to it, and they remain committed. And that's also part of the challenge.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and I love the way that you've kind of walked through the key components, and I think that's a great segue to the Hand and Scan product. Tell us a little bit about the Hand and Scan technology and how that product is differentiated from other solutions on the market.
So what we thought that it's important to give the visual feedback. Therefore, we wanted to provide a monitoring device. So as it started, you have your hands, you applied the alcohol-based hand rub, in which there is sometimes